In any story, character tropes and archetypes can be extremely efficient as it helps the audience immediately understand a character's role and personality without lengthy exposition. For example, in shoujo mangas, once you are introduced to a popular and handsome dude, you can expect that person to be the male lead of the story. If there comes another boy that shows interest in the female lead, that person will be the male lead's romantic rival, and so on and so forth. However, when these tropes and archetypes are not extended to make certain characters unique, their uses go from efficient to lazy. The foreigners and the twins are examples of common character tropes used in anime. You can easily find these characters in basically all animes with an ensemble of casts. Run with the Wind is no different. But what the anime does so well is that despite the foreigner and the twins being the supporting characters, it still spends a great deal of time to ensure these characters are recognized for who they are in addition to their archetypes. Okay, let's get started. Musa Kamala is a second-year international student from Tanzania studying science and engineering. Though it is not explicitly mentioned in the anime, Musa comes from a very well-off family, so he definitely could have afforded better housing, but he sees residing in Aotake as a good way to experience Japanese life. Musa has a shy and humble personality. He respects the upperclassmen and is kind to the lowerclassmen. But out of the 9, he is the closest to Shindo. Musa looks up to Shindo's way of speech, and Shindo is the only person who would always explain unfamiliar terms to Musa. We see hints of their close-knit relationship throughout the anime. For example, when Musa is hesitant to submit to Haiji's plan, it is Shindo's drunken speech that convinces him to join. And right before Musa's turn at the Hakone Ekiden, it is Shindo's phone call that calms his nerves. Not to mention the countless times we see the duo together throughout the series. Despite him being the only non-Japanese member, Musa's background is rarely brought up throughout the anime, if at all. Every member at Aotake treats him like one of their own, and Musa's personality allows him to fit right in with Japanese society. But the inclusion of Musa does bring in discussions about the involvement of foreign runners in what is considered to be a traditionally Japanese race. Certain Japanese audiences sees this act as cheating and thus do not welcome these foreign runners. In episode 16, if you pay attention to the audience at the preliminary, as foreign runners pass the finish line, no one was really cheering them on. All they can do is give themselves a pat in the back. Musa faces similar criticisms throughout his journey to Hakone. Understandably, Kakeru becomes enraged when he hears these criticisms, but Musa doesn't seem to mind. He understands that many of the runners and teams who fail to make it to Hakone will want to take out their frustrations on someone, and international students like him naturally becomes their sandbags. But these critics do bring up a fair point. Is it fair for certain schools to include foreign students while other schools consist of Japanese runners only? There is no simple answer to this question, but through the mouth of Fujioka, the story brings up another question for us to consider. How does one define fair? Asians and Black people obviously have different physical structures. Then does that make a mixed race competition, something like the Olympics, fundamentally unfair? Again, there is no simple answer to this question. But what Fujioka really wants to ask is winning the only goal in sport? To him, and many runners out there, including Haiji, the answer is no. For these runners, winning is not an objective goal, but a subjective feeling. A feeling these runners spend their entire career trying to understand and chase. Haiji assigns Musa to run the second leg of the Hakone Ekiden, a highly competitive leg, traditionally reserved for the fastest runner of the team. Musa is resistant to this decision at first, but Kakeru's words comfort him. In the novel, this is what Kakeru says about Musa. He had to deal with so much pressure, but he never let it get to him and has stuck to practice all this time. Even though he had never done long-distance running before, now he can run 10 kilometers in just over 20 minutes. Besides, he always knows what to say to keep me going. In terms of hard work and character, Musa will excel over any other athlete. No one deserves to be called the ace more than him. Just like Kakeru says, Musa has what it takes to become the ace of the team. An ace doesn't always have to shine the brightest, but he needs to be the cushion everyone can fall back to. Musa is that cushion. He is the most caring, sentimental, and sensitive member of the team. That is why he is quick to catch Hana-chan's crush on the twins. And when Kakeru opens up about his past, Musa is the first person to verbally state that he is fond of Kakeru. This combination of characteristics makes Musa hyper-vigilant to the mood of the moment. This eventually led to some trouble during his run at the Hakone Ekiden. As Prince came out as the last of the first leg, Musa felt an obligation to catch up and surpass as many runners ahead of him during his leg. Considering this is a section packed with each team's fastest runner, Musa is setting a highly unrealistic goal for himself. As his run from Tsurumi to Totsuka begins, Musa quickly loses track of his own speed and instead follows the speed of those around him, running each kilometer under 3 minutes. At this rate, there's no chance Musa can make it to the end. Fortunately, after a couple of reminders from Mr. Tazaki, Musa snaps back and recalls his conversation with Haiji. Everyone's leg is a mere 1 out of 10. Musa doesn't need to fixate on surpassing anyone or coming out on top. All he needs to do is keep up with the speed he can, and the rest the team will make up for. Near the end of his leg, Musa gives his all to surpass a group of 7, raising Kansei's ranking from 20 to 14. Following Musa, Jota and Joji runs the 3rd and 4th leg respectively. They are first-year economics students residing in room 209, the largest room in Aotake. I imagine the appearance of Jota and Joji to be a miracle for Haiji. The reason it took 4 long years to gather 10 people is because Aotake has 9 rooms only. That means, for Haiji's dream to actuate, one of its rooms must be shared. It is hard to imagine any 2 people wanting to squeeze into one small room in a house that is slowly breaking down. But fortunately, Jota and Joji don't mind. Since the Jo brothers occupy the largest room in the residence, their room is also where the members would gather for parties and discussions. The twins are also more than willing to have their roommates over for gatherings. Jota and Joji, alongside Kakeru, are the youngest members of the team. If Kakeru is emotionally immature, then the twins are immature overall. Kakeru calls them chatterboxes, stating the twins often fuss over trivial matters. But fortunately for Haiji, the twins' naivety also becomes the reason for their lack of resistance. Jota and Joji quickly hopped on Haiji's plan for 2 reasons: that everyone else is doing it, and that it will make them popular among girls. So it is pretty clear that they did not put much thought into any of this. Yet once training starts, reality quickly crashes in. Though the twins are among the fastest in the group, it does not mean they're having an easier time than the rest. The 2 often complain, but they never slack off or quit. For the entire first half of the story, the twins remain a constant force within the group, always cheerful and looking forward to the next big thing. But as the team passes to preliminary, the twins start to wonder what they're running for. When they join Haiji's plan, Haiji promised he would show the team the view of the top. The twins interpret this as taking home the gold. But when they see the Kansei team's best time is still far from the number 1 team, they start to wonder, if they can't surpass all the teams ahead of them, how can they see the view of the top? When the twins ask Kakeru about this, Kakeru cannot give them a clear answer, and neither can Haiji. For the first time, Jota and Joji show dissatisfaction with Haiji's plan. And what's worse is that everyone else on the team seems to already know that they have no chance of winning number 1. The twins feel left out, even lied to. Equating seeing the top with gaining the gold medal is a very shallow and childish interpretation of Haiji's words. But that is how the twins are. They won't continue running until they have given a reason for why they're still doing it. Yet, when Sakaki asks the group the same question later on, the twins become defensive. Kansei's journey to Hakone is unique in that no one on the team really knows why they are running. Not even Haiji, the person who started all of this. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what they're running for. What matters is that they have something to work for, something they can give their all to. And that seems to be a good enough answer for the twins. Now let me step back a bit. Up to now, I've been talking about Jota and Joji as one entity, the twins. Anime's approach to the twin characters tend to take one of 2 routes. Either they are complete opposites, like Kazuma and Takuma in Gakuen Babysitters, or they're essentially the same person, like Hikaru and Kaoru early on in Oran High School Host Club. Run with the Wind takes the Oran High School Host Club approach. Jota and Joji initially come off as indifferentiable and inseparable, so much so that it becomes difficult to tell who is who if you can't recognize them by their voices. But we do get to see just how different the 2 are during their respective run at the Hakone Ekiden. Jota, the older of the 2, runs the 3rd leg. During his conversation with King before his run, Jota implies he may continue running. Yet in his eternal monologue, he contradicts his previous claim and states Hakone Ekiden may be his last run. Though the twins are almost equally as good in terms of running, to Jota, Joji seems to be the one who loves running just a little more. Instead of being jealous that his younger brother seems to have found his path, Jota is supportive. Having been inseparable since birth, Jota is glad here is where the two part ways. Kakeru has been the runner the two looked up to thus far, but Jota believes Joji can match, if not surpass Kakeru someday, and he, as the older brother, will continue to support Joji as he always has. Jota's monologue is caring and considerate, the complete opposite of how he typically presents himself. And we really do start to see him as the older brother. Yet just when you think Jota is going to end his turn at a mature note, he sees Hana-chan, and we get this. As Joji takes the Tusky from Jota and starts his run of the fourth leg, his mind is immediately occupied by his brother's words. Thus far, Joji has been the supportive younger brother. He genuinely respects Jota and is proud to have him as an older brother. But Joji also wants to be recognized for who he is. In front of girls he likes, Joji mentioned that he will play up his Joji-ness so that the girls will recognize him. And each time the girls take time to differentiate between the two, Joji feels a bit hurt. And most of his previous relationships faded away for this reason. Obviously, this is to no fault of the girls. But it's hard for Joji not to be bothered. So part of his attraction to Hana-chan is because she can easily tell him and Jota apart. In fact, through Joji's monologue, we actually learn that he is a lot more mature than he presents himself to be. Joji has felt an attraction to Hana-chan for a really long time, but he held back because he thought Hana-chan has a crush on Kakeru. He acknowledges Kakeru may not be very good at getting his ideas out, but Kakeru always tries his best to express his feelings. What's more, Kakeru's run is powerful, inspiring everyone who sees it. So despite the twins' immaturity, they never make their feelings an obligation for others. Whatever conclusion Joji reached at the end of his run about Hana-chan, the unfortunate thing is that it had impacted his speed. As Shindo takes the Tusky from Joji, there's nothing more Joji can do. His run may have ended on a sour note, but it will only become a stronger motivator for his next run at the Hakone Ekiden. At the end of the day, Musa, Jota, and Joji may not be the flashiest runners or the central pillars of the narrative, but they serve as proof that you do not need to undergo a dramatic transformation or have a climatic turning point to be a well-written character. Sometimes quiet consistency and subtle development create the strongest sense of realism and relatability. Hello, Potato here. Thank you all for making it to the end of this video. This video is already longer than usual, so let me just quickly go over the voices of Musa, Jota, and Joji. Jota is voiced by Enoki Junya. He is the voice of Itadori Yuji in Jujutsu Kaisen and Renkoku Senjuro in Demon Slayer. Joji is voiced by Uemura Yuto. He is the voice of Nakajima Achi in Bungo Stray Dogs and Narumiya Minato in Tsurune. Musa's voice is Kabumoto Hideaki. He is the voice of Miyao Samu in Haikyuu and Kuroishi Yuto in Dream Festival. That is all for now. Thank you all for making it to the end of this video. I will see you in the next one. Bye!